Okay, guys, thank you very much to welcome to this Biosecurity for Organic Importers webinar. We're just going to wait another minute and get a few more participants online. My name is Josefine Pettersson. I'm the Technical Officer here at Australian Organic. We are the peak industry body for organic agriculture as such, and I guess this is a special webinar that we have given the recent biosecurity changes to do with the Capra beetle as such. So I'll just give it another half minute before we start, so just bear with me, and we will soon start this webinar. Okay, so with us today, we've got a great program. So we've got an introduction on Capra beetles, we've got the introduction on controlled atmosphere treatments. We have 3 different presentations from controlled atmosphere providers. We also have Luigi Paglia and Sam from the government here to answer any questions that you might have afterwards, and also talk a little bit more about the issues with this new controlled atmosphere treatment during COVID times. So during the start of the year, when the government introduced these new regulations on Capra beetles, AOL completed a member consultation survey and proposed peer-reviewed options for the government to examine to ensure that Capra beetles are kept out of Australia. So what is the Capra beetle? If we have a look here, you know, it's a very small beetle. You see it next to a grain of rice, and it's minuscule. You know, you can send a consignment from an Asian country and think that there won't be any issues, and it might come to Australia heavily infested. As you can see here next to a coriander seed, it's extremely small. And I guess the reason why the government has taken such a hard stance against the Capra beetle is because it's really an amazing insect. So, you know, the diapause larva can survive years without food. The infestation of Capra beetle can cause up to 75% losses in stock. They have a really short life cycle, you know, 26 days in optimum conditions. And from an international agricultural perspective, in the 1940s, Australia was erroneously listed as a Capra beetle country, and it took over 15 years of lobbying to remove this stigma. And if Australia were again to get Capra beetles, then a lot of export markets could disappear immediately if it became established. And with all of these things in mind, you know, Australian Organic, we're committed to making sure that the organic industry aren't the people that bring the Capra beetle into Australia. And with this, you know, we wanted more options for organic importers. So when we think of Capra beetles, you know, they're not established in all countries, and you know, they're typically very high risk within the following list of products on the left. So the government, you know, identified these high-risk products as part of the implementation plan to prevent the Capra beetle from coming into the country. This list may increase or may change depending on, you know, any other Capra beetle infestations that are identified. And it's mostly, you know, a high risk in raw and unprocessed forms. So typically, this is, you know, excluding thermally processed products, you know, any commercially processed into flour that are less than 25 kilos, you know, you still need a phyto certificate for, but typically these don't need to be treated. And you've got other sort of preserved or pickled stages of these high risk products that you then also need to aren't considered as high risk. But the best way is to go to the Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment website, and they have, a full list and all the exclusions and specificities. So what are the high-risk countries? So as you can see, it's sort of a belt going through the Middle East and Northern Africa. And, this is because the capra beetle, it likes hot, dry conditions. So it typically doesn't do very well in humid environments, but it does really well in hot, dry conditions like those highlighted in red. So if any of your products, from the previous slide come from any of these countries, you need to treat your sea containers with one of the 4 options presented by the government. So the organic treatment options, out of the 4 options, there's methyl bromide. It's ozone depleting, extremely toxic, potentially residual, not organic, and sulfuryl fluoride and other insecticides aren't organically approved either. So you can heat treat your products, but this can potentially damage the quality or cook if it isn't done properly. So, Australian Organic, together with our consultants team, we tried to look at what other options there would be within the organic sector for treating grains, cereals from these high risk countries. And so, neem can be used to repel capra beetles, but doesn't kill them in all life stages. Diatomaceous earth isn't effective. And these capra beetles are so amazing. Not only do they like the heat, but, they're cold tolerant well past minus 15 degrees centigrade. And freezing products, it's very expensive for bulk products, which led us to controlled atmospheres per se. So what is controlled atmosphere? It's, modifying the internal atmosphere either through decreasing the oxygen, increasing the nitrogen, carbon dioxide and or pressure. And with this, there are 5 government allowed treatment processes for high risk commodities. And, you have the ones with a higher internal pressure, the 1 and 2. You've got just a high CO2 at atmospheric pressure, and you've got low oxygen at atmospheric pressure. So we're hoping that with these 5 options, they can give you as importers, with that we can give you some more treatment options for your stock that is coming into the country and prevent the capra beetle from coming in. So in terms of the treatment process, from September 30, 2 days from now, any high-risk plant products exported prior to September 30 are not subject to the new import conditions, but any stock sent after September 30 needs to fulfill these requirements as such. So not a lot of time, but we're hoping with this webinar you can see the potential technologies that you can use to fulfill these treatments, and that will facilitate things going forward. So, with this, sea containers also must be treated, heat treatment for 60 degrees for 120 minutes. Otherwise, the methyl bromide option is also possible for organic as long as you have the required withholding waiting period for 0 residues following treatment. But having said that, depending on your warehouse conditions, we definitely recommend a heat treatment rather than the methyl bromide treatment for the sea containers. And, all of these treatments must occur within 21 days of export, and they need to be accompanied by the appropriate certification when they land in an Australian port. And so how does this certification process differ with controlled atmosphere? First of all, you need an import permit. So, this would be through BICON. And BICON stands for the Biosecurity Import Conditions System. So you need to, select the relevant approved control atmosphere treatment from the 5 that were presented previously. You need your phytosanitary certificate from the government authority and country of export. You need your treatment certificate from the registered provider. And this process is slightly different due to COVID because the government can't fly over and properly approve treatment facilities at this time. So they won't be releasing a short-term list, but they will long-term do so, as I understand. And in the meantime, any questions that you may have, you just need to contact the offshore treatment team at that email address. So when we think of treatment options, you know, we're only presenting from 3 different companies today, and there's definitely a lot more treatment options available to be able to fulfill those 5 treatments per se. So low carbon dioxide, you know, has traditionally, or rather a high carbon dioxide percentage has been traditionally used to treat the prevention of outbreaks. But it doesn't actually kill the capra beetles. You need to get a really high carbon dioxide percentage to be able to kill the diapause larvae. And when you look at those treatments, you know, you might think that they're a lot more longer, they're a lot stronger, they're a lot higher temperatures potentially than what you have been doing. And that's just because we have to be able to kill the diapause larvae, you know, that doesn't eat for years on end. So it goes into a lower metabolic state and then needs these really stringent treatment options. So now we're just going to give an introduction to some of the technology behind those controlled atmosphere treatments. So the first one we have today is Carvex. It's a high pressure, high CO2 treatment, and it can fulfill the following 2 treatment options presented by the government. Please just bear with me as we open that recording, and I hope that you can all still see it.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Thorsten Roth, and I want to talk about the pressurized pest control with carbon dioxide for biological stock protection. Carvex pressurized pest control, the producer is used over 30 years worldwide. The Carvex pressurized pest control system is applied to grains, cereals, dry fruits, dried vegetables, nuts, tea, cocoa, coffee, tobacco, medicinal plants, and rice that have been infected by harmful insects as well as by their larvae or eggs. So the most important point is the 100% mortality of insects, larvae, and eggs of the capracephal is reached because of the hyperacidity of the cell sap and the hemolymph of the insects. The pressure effect is the same like the diving paralysis and the oxygen removal. But now how it works. The pest infested material to be proceeded is inserted in bags in specially constructed pest disinfection chambers. After the chambers are loaded, the operator closes the doors. The operator chooses the right program and push the start button on the switch cabinet, and the process starts. A few words about the process. The CO2 from the tank enters the evaporator in liquid form, is evaporated there, and reaches the chamber as a gas up to 30 bars. After the treatment hour, approximately 360 minutes, the remaining CO2 is released to the environment via silencer. But there's one important step. We can do a pressure equalization between the chambers after the treatment, so we can save 50% of the CO2. Also very important, the carving system runs completely automatically, and you will have an individual treatment protocol for each batch. Here you can see the pressure, the time, and the goods, and so on. So a few words for the dimension of the Carvex system. The pressure chambers are available as a single chamber, a double chamber, or a 3-chamber solution, and of course a silo system. Usually, the silo chambers have a length, a diameter between 1.80 meter and 2.40 meter, and a length between 6 and 50 meters. Please note, all CARVAC chambers are designed customer individually. So the price for the CARVAC single chamber starts at 260,000 euros net ex works, and the price for a double chamber system starts at 370,000 euros net ex works. But what is the difference between pressurized press control and pressureless press control with CO2? It's the time, of course. Here you can see at this chart the times with the pressure press control and with the pressureless control. As you can see, you need days without pressure and hours with pressure. For example, 28 days to 5 hours at 20 bar. And here are the important times for the copper beetle. If you have the copper beetle with 95 CO2 concentration, temperature 20 bar, and a pressure of 30 bar, everything is done in 90 minutes. If you only use 20 bar, everything is done in 5 hours, but we need 60 minutes on the top for pressure build up and pressure down. But if you can see, if you go down, you can see again, if you do it without any pressure, you need 28 days in the worst case, and in the best case, minimum 12 days to have the same result. As you can see, only the combination of CO2 and pressure allows the treatment to work very efficiently. But everything we have also talked about is about the CO2 consumption. I used an example of a single chamber with a diameter of 2.1 meter and a length of 12 meters. The holding capacity is 12 pallets with approximately dimension of the valve to 1,200 millimeters, a length 1,000 millimeters, and a height of 1.600 millimeters. This is the usually pallets dimension here on the market. So if you can see, if you're in a hurry and if you have high pressure, of course you need much more CO2, but the time is down. If you can see, you need approximately 2,700 kilogram at 30 bar, but only use approximately 800 kilogram if you let the carving system run for approximately 1 day. So as you can see, higher pressure means more CO2 consumption, but less time needed. It's important to find the right balance between the time and the CO2 consumption. That's why most of our customers works with 20 bars. Also, to have an idea of the price, I only can say the price here in Europe for a ton is between 90 and 150 euros per ton. So, but the next thing is how you can save the CO2. One good thing is to save 50% of the CO2 if you buy a double chamber system. So you can save 50% in the CARVAC system to make a pressure equalization between the chambers after the treatment. And also to save much more CO2, the newest step is an additional recovery unit. With this, you can save up 90% of the CO2 on top. So let me say a couple of words about the CO2 and why we use it in this process. Why we are using carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is used in the process because it's a non-toxic gas in common in the food industry with no dangerous effects on the humans, on the environment. Why we use carbon dioxide? It has no changing impact on the treated products. This is very important. And also very important for you to know is the CO2 comes normally from natural sources in the Eifel here in Germany, for example, from volcanoes or from the chemical or biological processes. There is no extra production of CO2 needed. This means the CO2 you are using is already there. We only avoid chemicals with CO2, which is already there. So thank you very much for your attention. If you have any further question or something else, please contact me by mail or please visit our homepage, or you can call me on my phone number. Thank you very much.
So that was the Carvex system. And as a note on the Carvex system, so just remember that the government has only allowed the 20 bar and the 30 bar treatment systems as such. So he talked about lower pressure systems, but for the purpose of this, only the 20 and 30 bar are allowed by the Australian government as treatment times. There are also, at this point in time, no Carvex machines in the high-risk Capra beetle countries. So this option would be something to think of in the future. I mean, they have excellent technology, but with COVID, you know, of course, there are limitations all around the world, and that is just something to take into consideration. So the next one is Grain Pro. So Grain Pro is more about the hermetic lining or the seal technology of a lot of different packaging per se. So with this combined with other technology, you know, you can have the high CO2 atmospheric pressure treatment, the low oxygen and atmospheric pressure treatment. So just bear with me as we share the next screen. And hopefully now, seeing as we have a great understanding of how it goes, that you will also be able to see it and hear it, and please let me know if not.
Good day, everyone. I am Dr. Melanie Blanca Ocreto from GrainPro Customer Support Department. So it is our privilege to actually share GrainPro solutions related to modified atmosphere technology. One of our concerns right now is the adverse effect of using chemical fumigation in controlling insect infestation because of its residues to foodstuff and environment. Modified atmosphere technology has been developed as an alternative solution to control insect infestation, which is known to be safe to the food and to the environment. So we have problems with post-harvest losses, one of which is insect infestation, which also leads to mold growth. Insects are known to affect grains because it produces or it results in weight loss, it results in low quality grains, and also it results in mold development. Mold development is a problem as well because of mycotoxin production. So we have developed technologies that can control insect infestation, and one of which is modified atmosphere technology, or MA. MA is known to be safe because it has no residue, no chemical residue, and it doesn't create a risk because of insect resistance due to chemical fumigation. So hermetic technology, as GrainPro developed this one, is that it is being used in ancient times in preserving grains. It has been used in Middle East, India, and Egypt. And the pioneer of MA or modified atmosphere technology has been using this old principle to preserve grains and to control insect infestation. It has been noted as a process to preserve foodstuffs, which are safe to use because it doesn't use chemicals for treatment. Hermetic technology relies in the respiration of living organisms. So that includes the insects, that includes also the grains and the aerobic microflora inside a sealed or gas-tight storage system. The material or the container has to be gas-tight because the aim is to create an oxygen depleted and carbon dioxide enriched environment. If this is the environment, it is lethal to insects. So without the use of chemicals, without the use of chemical fumigants, we are able to control insect infestation by creating a low level of oxygen and a high level of carbon dioxide in a gas type container. So we have another MA, or modified atmosphere technology, which is called controlled atmosphere technology, or CA. So with controlled atmosphere technology, we are using external source of gases that includes carbon dioxide and nitrogen, which are known to be inert gases, so they are safe, and they do not leave residues behind, which is harmful to both humans and consumers. We have the carbon dioxide gas treatment, or we have the high carbon dioxide or hypercardia treatment. So with this, with GrainPro technology, we are able to create such condition because we are flushing the cocoon with carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide that we are using is contained in a pressurized cylinder tank connected by a pressure kit into the cocoon. The dosage of carbon dioxide is being determined specific for grains and for the sizes of the cocoon. We check the right level or the dosage of carbon dioxide by using an ordinary weighing scale. The level of carbon dioxide is also monitored using an oxygen analyzer or carbon dioxide analyzer. So with this, we are able to combine an environment with high carbon dioxide and low level of oxygen. So the carbon dioxide treatment can be used for both the cocoons and the TSL, or the transect liner. So the TSL is used for transit, while the cocoons is used for storage. So the nitrogen gas treatment is another way of creating a controlled environment. So with this, we are able to create an environment with low level of oxygen. So we can create an oxygen level which is 1% or 3% with an aid of nitrogen generator, and of course by using a gas type chamber. So we have also a monitoring system which is shown here. So the nitrogen gas treatment is using several setup, or the system is using three main parts, which are the nitrogen gas generator, which is using PSA, or pressure swing adsorption mechanism, in which we are able to produce a nitrogen gas of 99.99% purity. The gas generator is connected to a gas type chamber, or the cocoon. The cocoon is being monitored by a controlled atmosphere machine. The controlled atmosphere machine, or the CA machine, is monitoring the oxygen level, so to make sure that the oxygen level is at correct level. And it is also monitoring the pressure, the temperature, and the RH inside the gas type chamber, or the GrainPro cocoon. So if the oxygen level inside a gas type chamber or cocoon is above the set oxygen level, it will prompt the nitrogen generator to flush additional nitrogen gas into a gas type chamber, so that we are able to maintain a level which is detrimental to insects. In this case, we are able to maintain 1% level of oxygen. So we have several models developed or design developed by GrainPro as hermetic solutions, and can be also used for controlled atmosphere applications. So for bigger capacity, we have the GrainPro cocoons. The GrainPro cocoons has a capacity of 5 to 150 metric tons of, which can contain 5 to 150 metric tons of grains. These cocoons are made of flexible and reinforced PVC, and they can last up to 10 to 15 years. They are designed to contain big bags, and they are also designed to contain commodities that are packed in PP or jute bags, and they are designed to have a warranty of 5 years. We have also, for smaller capacity, the GrainPro Cocoon Light, which is made of weather-resistant, UV-protected, lightweight, cross-laminated PE with excellent gas barrier. So the lifespan of which is 5 years, and it is designed to contain commodities that are packed in jute sacks or PP bags. It has a 2-year warranty. And we have also the GrainPro Cocoon Indoor, which is made from multi-layer polyethylene with excellent gas barrier. So the capacity of which varies from 5 to 20 metric tons. It has a lifespan of 2 years and 1 year warranty. The Cocoon Indoor is designed for warehouses. We have also the Grain Pro Trans-Safe Liner or TSL, which is made of multi-layer polyethylene with gas barrier as well. So it is designed to be placed in a 20-foot or 40-foot container. It protects the grains from cross-contamination. It also protects the grains from condensation and possible reinfestation during transit. So it is also equipped with a port in which the TSL can be flashed by carbon dioxide or nitrogen. And we have also storage solutions which are designed for transport and storage. And this is actually designed for storing commodities placed or packed in big bags. We have the super grain bag high capacity and we have the FIBC hermetic pouch. Both can be flushed with carbon dioxide and nitrogen because it has ports for gas flushing as well. So Grain Pro Hermetic technology, it is a modified atmosphere storage system and it preserves dried agricultural commodities by protecting the grains from insects, from molds, and from moisture and also mycotoxin. So it is an MA or modified atmosphere technology in which we do not use chemical fumigants, and with this we are able to prevent the risk of developing insect resistance against chemical fumigants. So that's Grain Pro. We aim to reduce post-harvest losses, and our vision is towards a world without hunger and poverty. So if you want to learn more, please do visit us at the...
Okay, thank you very much for that from Grain Pro. So if we, I'll just go back to the slide here now. So ECO2, they're low oxygen atmospheric pressure. We have ECO2 and Grain Pro here today with us for questions after the government.
Okay, after the short introduction about ECO2, the next move, we will go for how does the control atmosphere system works. Here is a 3D visualization of ECO2 system. We can see the ECO2 system consists of two parts. On the left will be the machine room. The machine room will include the compressor, air tank, nitrogen machine, the topic control, and the right-hand side is the control atmosphere room. In this video of the control atmosphere room include the 3 chamber system. Each chamber has 2 doors. The loading door to load the product in and unloading door to take the treated product out in order to avoid reinfection. 2 parts will connect each other by a vent or an air path. The pure nitrogen will be brought from the nitrogen machine to the treatment room. What we do in the control atmosphere room is to control constantly the level of oxygen and product temperature inside by PLC. Once reaching right parameter, the oxygen reaches 1% inside the chamber and the product temperature reached at a peak value. The treatment time will be started to count. And depend on each commodity, we have different parameters. And we will, based on the quality of treatment products, we will advise the client the best solution and the size of the chamber to fit the client demands. These are the commodities that can be treated by our system. You can see it in the screen. This is a reality picture of the machine room on the right-hand side. It will be placed fixed inside the client warehouse or outside the warehouse by a container like this. And in the left-hand side, this is the control atmosphere with the chamber system. With a door system will be designed to suit the customer warehouse spaces with horizontal sliding door or vertical sliding door system. For a flexible solution, we have the control atmosphere container system. We will build the container as a control atmosphere option. We just set up the same things and apply the same process with the chamber system. This solution is really flexible, The system will be easy to move everywhere in the warehouse. And the treatment room here with the reefer container for the third. So another mobile solution is the control atmosphere bag treatment, which special bags are tight enough for the particular size of product. This option will be suitable for treatment with small volume from 5 metric ton up to 20 metric ton. And we have two options here. The option one will be using the nitrogen tank to plus nitrogen gas inside the bag. And other option, we will, with many treatment to be needed, we will avoid to invest the nitrogen converter to save the nitrogen gas code. This is the mobile controller for the control atmosphere bags. On the right hand side, we can know exactly the parameter during the treatment, such as oxygen level, the product temperature. And the next slide is the bulk treatment. It will be suitable for the treatment with the big volume, which is cover the plastic cover on the products, sealed and matic turn into the gut-tight space, and do the same process to fumigate. With this bulk treatment, we advise to invest the nitrogen converter. The next will be the silo treatment. We have two options here. Now with the product silo and the silo bag, we apply the same process of controlling oxygen. And our service will be monitoring and help desk service. On the eco system automatically record the parameter like oxygen level, the air temperature, the product temperature during the treatment. But if client requires, we will provide the monitoring and help desk service. We will help the customer easily to solve problem related to the control atmosphere system by remote guidance. And this is the monitor treatment we provide globally in the last 10 years. And Eco2 company have built totally for more than 200 organic fumigation systems in globally like Europe, Asia, Africa. And the last but not least is investment cost. We will base on the quantity product or the particular demands of the client, and therefore we will design or advise the appropriate solution for them. With our mission is promote the local support and contribute to enhance the value of client products. So because the time is limited, so if you want to know more about ecosystem, don't hesitate to contact us for further information. We have 2 main offices. If you are in Europe, you can contact the Netherlands office. And if you are in Asia, Africa, you can contact the office in Vietnam. My name is Thảo, and I'm happy to serve.
So without further ado, I'd like to invite Luigi from the Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment to talk a little bit more about some of the issues that they have had during this new modified atmosphere process and give you some advice if this is something that you are considering doing going forward.
Hi everyone, thanks Josephine, and thanks to putting together the presentation for the Australian organic sector. As by way of background, as you've noted, Capra beetle is Australia's #2 priority plant pest. It's actually the #1 priority pest for the grains industry. So Australia has embarked on a range of what's referred to as urgent actions to manage and prevent the establishment of Capra beetle in Australia. Of particular concern to us is the increased detections that have been occurring at Australia's border since 2020 and including to 2021. So the options that have been presented and what the government has put forward in relation to modified or controlled atmosphere treatment is one of many suite of measures that the Australian government has designed to strengthen biosecurity arrangements in Australia to manage and prevent the establishment of Capra beetle in Australia. controlled atmosphere treatments or modified atmospheres is, whilst it's not a new technology, it's a technology that's not recently or not readily endorsed by governments across the world as a phytosanitary measure. So in terms of some of the communication that the Australian government has put forward, we've used the word provisional measures, and I just wanted to explain what that means. So the rates and the treatments that Australia has prescribed in terms of the low oxygen and high carbon dioxide rates are based on a scientific literature review, and in combination with conversations and discussions that the Australian government has had with treatment suppliers. It's critically important that the treatments that are prescribed are designed to manage the effective treatment of this notorious pest, which is, as Josefine has pointed out, it's particularly well adapted to surviving in very extreme environments. The rates that have been prescribed for controlled atmospheres are designed at what's referred to as diapause larvae. So the Capra beetle has different forms of a beetle and larvae, and so the larvae itself can undergo a period of what's known as diapause, or a reduced respiration rate. It's that stage of the beetle where these treatments are designed to be most effective to basically manage to kill diapausing larvae. So if you can kill the larvae, you'll be able to kill the adult beetle. Just to make a comment in relation to the controlled atmosphere under pressure. So the current rates that Australia has prescribed are based on the current literature and current evidence. We've been talking to some of the treatment providers, and the Australian government is open to further information as it becomes available to modifying rates where we have sufficient efficacy data to demonstrate that the treatment is effective in managing and killing Capra beetle. We've also got on our website, and I also implore you as well as a community, if you've got additional treatments or scientific information that you can provide to the Australian government to consider, please feel free to forward that information through to us. Now, in relation to provisional measures, so the 2021 saw the release of what's referred to as an international standards phytosanitary measure for modified atmosphere. It's called ISPM 44, which sets out an international framework for government agencies, including ourselves, to look at the use of controlled atmospheres and modified atmospheres as a phytosanitary measure to manage pests. Acknowledging the fact that this is a new type of treatment for Australia, and there's limited treatment information or operational in terms of phytosanitary measures, the word provisional means that whilst we are endorsing the use of this treatment, we're going to monitor the use of the treatment in terms of how the treatment's been applied by overseas companies. And I'll let Sam speak to this in a moment about the framework by which Australia recognises treatment providers overseas. Josefine made a comment which is correct in terms of if you are interested in using these treatments to import goods into Australia, what you'll need to do is apply for an import permit. We've made a recent change on our website. We've included some additional dot points to facilitate those applications through to our department for review. What we'd like you to do is also, on your application, we'd like you to include specific details about the treatment rate that you're going to use. We'd like you to list the name of the treatment provider that you're intending to use overseas. We'd like information about whether or not, from that treatment provider, whether or not they have any government registration or approvals to treat goods. That doesn't necessarily mean that they must have it, but we're just looking for that information to gain extra level of assurance around the efficacy and the treatment provider themselves, that they're suitable to undertake the treatment for Australia. If you could also include information about the brand and type. So you would have seen from the presentations this morning that obviously there's a range of different techniques and systems in place that can be used for controlled atmospheres. So we'd like that information on the application. And we'd also like information about how the products will be packaged for treatment. So those dot points are on our website. So please refer to our Urgent Actions webpage, and there's a section specifically on controlled atmosphere. Sam, if you're online, I'll throw over to Sam, and Sam can give you a bit of an overview around treatment providers.
Thanks, Luigi. Sorry, everyone, I'm on my phone, so if the quality's not that great, please forgive me. So thanks for that, Luigi, and obviously thanks to everyone for sitting here and listening to this. As Luigi sort of indicated, Capra beetle's one of the top priority pests for the department. So it's really important that we get these requirements right. In terms of the treatment requirements that we've got in place for Capra, as was mentioned earlier, there's treatment requirements for the high-risk plant products themselves, and then also treatment requirements for the containers that are transporting those high-risk plant products. I think most of the people on the line here today are intending on using controlled atmosphere treatments to manage the risk of Capra in the high-risk plant products. And that means that the container and the plant products will need to be treated separately, which may mean that within your supply chain, you're dealing with multiple treatment providers. I guess the big message for everyone here today is that given the risk of Capra, given how high a priority it is for Australia to keep Capra beetle out, and the nature of Capra beetle when it sort of infests containers and high-risk plant products, the department has a very low risk appetite for these consignments and the risk of Capra beetle getting into these consignments, and we're not allowing onshore treatment for either the commodities or the sea containers. So what that'll mean is it's really important to make sure that these treatments are conducted effectively overseas before they arrive in Australia, because any ineffective treatments will more than likely result in the entire consignment being exported. So there won't be an opportunity to, unpack the container if the goods were treated, but the container wasn't. The entire consignment will more than likely be directed for export. So again, really important that we're getting the treatments right. Which means for everyone on the line here today, we encourage you to use treatment providers that are registered under one of our offshore treatment provider assurance schemes. So we've got two long-standing programs, the Australian Fumigation Accreditation Scheme, which looks after methyl bromide fumigators. And for those that choose to use methyl bromide fumigators in those AFAS countries to treat the containers, you're required to use one of those providers. And then outside of that AFAS scheme, we also have a scheme that manages brown marmorated stink bug. And while obviously these treatments are targeting Capra rather than those BMSB treatments, those treatment providers are known to the department and go through regular auditing. So we've got more confidence in those providers than some of the unregistered ones. So we'd encourage you to use providers that are registered to our schemes. Where that's not possible and those schemes don't extend into every country and not every provider has heard about those schemes, what we'd encourage you to do is to get your providers to sign up to our scheme, and even if they don't go through the whole registration process, to at least contact the department, provide us an overview of their sort of their treatment processes so that we can provide advice. Again, one of the key things that the department wants to do to help support these measures is provide advice to treatment providers to make sure that those treatments are conducted effectively. We're looking to avoid having to export containers as much as everyone on the line here is. So yeah, when you work through and decide on how you're going to incorporate these treatment requirements into your supply chains, ensure that, if you're using two different treatment providers, that they're both in contact with the department, they're both fully aware of what our requirements are. That includes the treatment schedules, which we've gone through today, which are our rates, times, temperatures, those sort of things, but also our treatment methodologies. So each one of our approved treatment options has a set of requirements that are articulated in a treatment methodology. All of those requirements must be followed, and those methodologies sort of read like standard operating procedures. They're a little bit different, obviously, because they're written as regulatory requirements, but they're a good place for treatment providers to find out what Australia's treatment requirements are. The other really important thing is that we sort of rely on the documentation that comes through with these treatments to verify the effectiveness of the treatments as they're being conducted offshore. So really important to make sure that treatment providers understand the treatment documentation requirements. So again, like I said before, the department's really keen to make sure that we're working with importers and treatment providers to support the compliance with these measures. We don't want to see any non-compliance as much as you guys don't. So we're encouraging, again, treatment providers to send through information on their proposed procedures, how they're going to fill out the documentation so that we can provide feedback to them on how they're sort of complying with our requirements. And that will prevent, you know, those non-compliant consignments arriving in Australia and forcing us to issue export directions and those sort of things. The final thing I'll touch on before I take questions is Josefine mentioned our long-term view for the registration of treatment providers. As I mentioned, we've got some long-standing schemes that are for registration of some providers in some countries for some treatments. Our long-term view is that all treatment providers conducting biosecurity treatments for Australia prior to export will be registered under some form of assurance scheme. What that means over the short and medium time for these measures is, in the short term, we're encouraging treatment providers to use our schemes. And like I mentioned before, AFAS providers in AFAS countries, that's a mandatory requirement. But otherwise, we're encouraging treatment providers to register for our schemes, or to at least contact us to sort of register their interest or flag their intent with us. And over the medium to longer term, we'll be designing a regulatory scheme, and eventually it will be a requirement that any treatment providers conducting these treatments will need to be registered with the department. And that's sort of the assurance model that we're working towards. But again, in the short term, I encourage everyone that's listening here, please work with your treatment providers. Please understand the treatment requirements. Make sure the treatment providers understand the treatment requirements. Make sure the treatment providers are given the sufficient time to be able to conduct these treatments, and make sure that those treatment providers are in contact with the department so that we've got the best opportunity we can at communicating our requirements accurately. And that means we won't have to export any non-compliant containers when they turn up here in Australia. I might take a breath there and hand back over to you, Luigi, or Josefine.
I think back to Josefine.
Yeah, definitely. So now we do have question time. So we did have a question, but I think that you answered that, Sam, because it has been removed as such. Yeah, I do invite any participants that have any questions regarding the modified atmosphere technology to come forward. Otherwise, you know, following this webinar, to any registered participants, we will be sending out the slides. We will be sending out a link to the recording. If you should have any questions after this presentation, please, you know, send them through to us. If there's, you know, anything else that we at Australian Organic can facilitate, please also send that through. But I think that, you know, we've had a very informative session. There's been a lot of information. We have one question here. Okay. And so the question is, are the products from non-Capra beetle countries also required to go through these treatments? And I guess the short answer is no, not these specific treatments as I understand it, but you still need to, you can't, you know, be having a consignment from Thailand riddled with weevils per se. So these are specific high-risk Capra beetle countries, and it's only from the high-risk Capra beetle countries and the high-risk products that need to do these modified atmosphere treatments for organic importers. But if you're an organic importer from a different country, or you still need to make sure that your consignments aren't riddled with pests and are still approved for import. And I understand if Luigi or Sam have any other points to that per se.
I've just I've responded in the chat.
Yeah, great. And I mean, just, you know, this is focusing on Capra beetle in the high-risk countries, but I mean, these modified or controlled atmosphere technology is an amazing way to control pests, whatever country you are in, for organic products. So we just have another question, like a courier company refused to take a product in Hungary due to Capra beetle. And I think that is very much in line with the reputation that Capra beetles have, given that they are so amazing in terms of their survival capacity. that, you know, if a consignment does have Capra beetle, and the fact that, you know, they do shed their cases that can be irritant and harmful, a lot of people, as I understand it, don't want to go anywhere near a product that has a Capra infestation. So, you know, that's the whole point of today, I guess, is to make sure that that isn't the case in Australia in the future. But if there weren't any other questions, it is 11. And I want to thank you, all the participants, and Carvex, ECO2, GrainPro, and the Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment for being with us here today. And please send through any other questions. But without further ado, unless any Sam or Luigi have anything else to add, thank you very much for attending this webinar on biosecurity for organic importers. And please join us for the Trade Organic webinar for Vietnam coming up on the 12th of October, sorry. And otherwise, thank you very much for today and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.